right, welcome back to the show. John Gambadoro, Tim Ring filling in for Bernsey. We'll talk a little D-backs baseball. Good win last night against the Padres. We had Tyler Locklear on the program just a short time ago. Terrific debut at the ballpark for him last night with the home run, and Andrew Hoffman pitched extremely well right now. But it's time to welcome on a very special guest. I mean, he has just taken the show by storm recently. He has taken the show by storm. So we'll introduce him. Benvenuti allo spettacolo, Jon Morosi.
Grazie mille, Gambo and Tim. Honored to be with you. And, of course, it was less than 24 hours ago, Gambo. We were hanging out, talking at the ballpark. Actually, I just landed back in Michigan, but I had just a lovely stay in Phoenix. I always enjoy being in Arizona, and it was great to catch up at the ballpark last night.
Yes, and I'll always say, well, and we won't speak a lot of Italian, but I always say, ciao, amico mio, come stai oggi?
Tutto bene, tutto bene. Penso che nel futuro la prossima conversazione ci parliamo tutto in italiano con il allenatore della squadra di Arizona, Salvatore Lovollo.
Ah, my favorite. Io sono vecchio, sono stanco, ho bisogno di dormire.
What I want, what is important to me.
Okay. Parliamo in inglese.
All right. We'll switch back to English.
We'll switch back to English because it throws people off a little bit. Diamondbacks went all in on the trades. They traded Naylor, they traded Suarez, they traded Grichuk, couldn't trade Gallen, they traded Merrill Kelly. They had to do it. Give me your thoughts on the return. You saw Locklear last night. You saw Hoffman last night. We've had a chance to see some of the other guys like Brandon Garcia. How did you think Mike Hazen did at the trade deadline?
Very well, because the Diamondbacks have to be prudent about where they're at right now in the standings and realizing you've got two excellent teams at the top of the National League West in the Dodgers and Padres, and calculating that there was probably not a very strong chance of making the playoffs this year. The National League is stacked. You can't go for it every year unless you're the Yankees, unless you're the Dodgers. And honestly, there were even a couple of years where the Yankees were not going for it, if you recall back when they made the moves with Andrew Miller and Chapman all those years ago.
Sure.
So it's important to know when it is your year to go for it, which 2023 was, and when it's not your year to go for it. And I think that the way that the Diamondbacks approached the deadline was textbook when it's not a rebuild. This is not a rebuild. This is a 1-year refresh of the roster for the last couple months of the season. And clearly, whether it was Locklear homering last night, as you point out, the way that Hoffman pitched, going 4 outs, I thought he was really good. Backus got the save to close it out. Obviously, he's an internal guy that has been stepped up one level after the other for a long time. Last night was a good game for a team that had sold off some pieces at the deadline to still show they can compete. They still have Corbin Carroll. And so I think last night really illustrates that D-backs fans should expect a competitive conclusion to the season. Does that mean making the playoffs? Candidly, probably not. But last night shows they have a good product on the field, worth going to Chase Field to watch. And you've got, I still think, one of the 10 best players in the sport right now in Corbin Carroll, who looks like it last night, even in a different role there as a DH and not the starting right fielder.
Hey, John, I want to go back to the trade deadline real quick. Gambo, in the days leading up to it, reported that the expectations were the D-backs would get their best haul for Merrill Kelly. And a lot of D-backs fans on social media were shocked by that, thinking Suarez would bring in the greatest haul. Gambo turned out to be right, of course. Kelly brought the biggest haul back. In your estimation, maybe it's through your own reporting or sourcing or just your own opinion, why are teams reluctant to give up a lot by way of top prospects for rental bats, even if the bat is of a guy like Geno Suarez? What's the deal there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that a couple things. It's less about, in most cases, what a team would be willing to give up and more about the market dynamics of that particular player. And here's what I mean by that. When it comes to a starting pitcher, every single contending team, theoretically, was in the market for Merrill Kelly because Merrill Kelly is better than every team's fifth starter. Now, we can argue, okay, maybe the Mariners said that they would have liked Logan Evans better than Kelly, or there might be a handful of teams that really love their fifth starter. But for the most part, Merrill Kelly is better than everybody's fifth starter. Therefore, Merrill Kelly fits every team. With Suarez, you have to look at it and say, how many teams were truly in the market for an everyday third baseman? And the Mariners were, clearly. The Tigers were to an extent. But there were not many other clubs. Now he could have played first base depending on the circumstance, but there were probably only a handful, let's say. As good of a season as Gino was having. The Mets have their own logjam at third base. You could have argued the Yankees, but then they got Ryan McMahon. So there were just more teams that were in there pursuing Merrill Kelly than there were pursuing Eugenio Suarez, even though Suarez probably was having the better season metrically in terms of the relative strength of other third basemen. It's just that there were not that many teams at the deadline who were looking for a third baseman, whereas just about every contender would have wanted Merrill Kelly.
Yeah, I talked to A.J. Hinch about it, too. He said, look, our priority is relievers, but we really like Merrill Kelly. I think it was overblown, their interest in Suarez. I do think that was overblown. They needed relief help, but they did like Kelly, like everybody else. Zach Gallen did not get traded. And Mike Hazen's plan is if he didn't get an offer good enough, he wasn't going to trade him. You always extend a qualifying offer. You could keep him for $22 million, or maybe somebody signs him and pays him if he pitches well, and you get maybe a compensatory pick at the end of the first round. Your thoughts on why Zach Gallen did not get traded?
It's exactly what you were saying, Gambo, that when you look at the value, and the D-backs clearly draft very well. Let's remember that Corbin Carroll was a mid-first round pick. So with that tells you that their scouting department is very, very good, that they drafted him where they got him. And so when you trust your scouting department, when you believe that you can get a good player and trying to get as many of the top 50 picks as you possibly can, then you can say, all right, here is where we believe our value is for Zach Gallen. You better value him at what he has been the last several times out once he's kind of gotten himself corrected and looks more like the all-star version that he's been in the past. We would say, okay, you've got to value him there and make an offer for him at that price point. If you don't do that, we'll take him into free agency, offer him the qualifying offer, and see how things go in the wintertime. So I think that was a really nice fallback option. And I think, too, it would have been asking a lot of a young staff or a staff that's still in transition, if you want to call it that, to trade both Kelly and Gallen without getting back necessarily immediate starting pitching help that's going to be able to get you through 5 and 6 innings. And certainly in the Kelly deal, they're able to get 3 pitchers, Drake, Brad, and Hageman. So they did a good job of bringing back pitching, but you don't have to necessarily, as long as you keep Gallen, it allows you to at least not burden too much your young pitching, your bullpen, and that has its own developmental benefit, even if you're not winning the World Series in 2025.
Yeah. John, I thought the trade deadline was fascinating. The Brewers, who have been so good, barely did anything outside of adding Shelby Miller. I love what the Padres did with their bullpen. What stood out to you about the deadline? Who do you think improved themselves the most?
Well, I thought initially that with the quantity of upgrades they made, that the Yankees did quite well. Shows you what I know, because
they got swept by the Marlins.
They're setting guys down.
They had to send Jake Bird down to the minor leagues. It illustrates. Listen, as much as those of us that are on the air, and we all love trades, we all love the game. We love players moving around. It's fun to talk about. We pound the table, make some moves. As we were doing the broadcast last night, I made the point that both New York teams who had bought aggressively at the deadline, they both lost last night, and the losing pitcher for both of them was a guy that was acquired in the bullpen at the deadline. Helsley for the Mets, and then Bird for the Yankees, who was promptly sent to the minor leagues. This is a tough business, guys. This is a tough business. So I think the Yankees, I believe that if they just kind of stabilize, that they'll still be okay. But the Jays, listen, the Jays have probably the better team right now in the American League East. And I think the Mariners really made a strong statement. You know how good Naylor is. You know how good Suarez is. They were able to also address the bullpen a little bit. I think the Mariners, a team that course, has never been to the World Series. They need to show their fans that they're serious about winning it all this year, and they did that. And they won a series over the weekend. So I think the Mariners, they did what their fan base demanded, and I think it was a very effective way of going about things. I think you look at the Phillies, Johan Duran, I think probably a lot of baseball fans saw Sunday night baseball, that entrance music and the whole field now of Citizens Bank Park. He is exactly what the Phillies have needed. Their bullpen has been an issue for them now for multiple years. Obviously, the bullpen's the reason why it was the D-backs and not the Phillies who won the World Series or won the NLCS back in 2023. So I think that the Phillies addressed what they needed, and so I think for that reason, I really like the way that Philadelphia handled the deadline too.
Grazie mio, amico. Parleremo presto.
Perfetto, il piacere è tutto mio. Alla prossima, ci parliamo presto. Grazie.
Piacere. Grazie. Ciao.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
John, that's Jon Morosi, who does a. It was great to meet him last night. Piacere. Great to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Good to meet John. It was great to hang out with him at the ballpark last night. Me and Mitch, we had a lot of fun talking to John. Duran, by the way, a former Diamondback farmhand that Mike Hazen traded to get Eduardo Escobar. Back when Hazen traded Duran, who's now on the Phillies, he was just talking about him, he didn't throw the ball 102 miles an hour. He didn't throw it that hard. They made the trade. He was a young guy. He really developed into something special.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.